Hello, everyone. My name is Cindy Welch, and I am the Assistant Director of Regional Recruitment at Missouri S&T, and we are very excited to have you guys here today. With us today, I have two current students who are part of the Solar House design team, and they each live in one of the solar houses here on campus. We've got Reagan and Cherith. I also have Thomas Yarborough, who is, well, I'm going to let him tell you what he does after a while. But he's going to talk to you guys a little bit about the solar house research and solar grid and various things like that. So we do still have people who are joining us and we're admitting them, but we're going to go ahead and just get started. Reagan, why don't you start? Why don't you tell us a little bit about why you joined the solar house design team and how that has come about, and anything else that you want to share about your experience.
All right. So I was, or for my first tour here, I think I had some friends from high school that were actually on the solar house design team at the time. And so I got to tour some of the older houses whenever I first came down here, which got me really interested. And then also the fact that like I could be on a team where we would build a house, like design and build a house that actually got made. It sounded super cool to me. And so I joined my freshman year. And then I was a little bit involved with the house they were building at the time. And then I became the finance director for a short time as well. Yeah, and then my senior year, I got to live in the house that Cherith is actually in right now. And then now I'm a graduate student. I'm living in this house right here. It was built in 2013. So a little bit about my house. It is, like I said, it was built in 2013. It's called the Chameleon Home. And so, and I'll also have Tom tell a little bit about like all the stuff with the house because I was not in college in 2013. I did not help build this one. So it is basically just like a 1-room and a bathroom house, but it's all very open. So we'll turn around and see the lovely kitchen over here. So I don't know how much you can see of that, but it is just kind of a standard kitchen. All the appliances are super energy efficient. And there you go. So one fantastic thing about this house is there is a ridiculous amount of storage, like far more than one person could ever use. So all of these over here, as Stefan's showing you, those are all cabinets. So just like, yeah, plenty of storage. So then we have back there, you can kind of see that's a Murphy bed. So it can go up and you can have just the whole room. There's Tom. Tom says hi. Showing the lovely Murphy bed. Yeah, and then here we'll wander around. We'll go see the bathroom real fast. And then I'll let Tom talk about more of the research aspects of the home. Oh yeah, and also, so part of the Chameleon Home is it's supposed to be adaptable. So it does have a wall where you can close off your bedroom right there. So, come in here. So here's the bathroom. It comes with the washer and dryer. I am currently doing laundry. And then a very lovely, nice size shower. And then, yeah, sink and bathroom, etc. So it's a super nice house for one person for sure.
Okay, that sounds good. I love that you have 2 Vanna Whites there showing everything for you.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the time commitment that is involved with joining the solar house design team.
Yeah, so it's really as much time as you want to put into it. So you could just barely be on the team, go to some meetings and see what's going on. It could also be a very large time commitment if you want to be in like a leadership position where, especially like around the time of the competitions, you're putting in like maybe 10 plus hours a week. But yeah, it is what you want to put into it. So you can do, there's general meetings every week or every other week, and then you have like your own sub team meetings at different times. So you have maybe 2-3 meetings a week if you just want to do those, and then there's chances to work outside of it on specific things.
Now, Thomas, do you want to talk about the research in this house particularly, or do you want to talk about it as a whole after we talk to Cherith on her house?
That depends on what Cherith wants to cover. So I think we could probably let Cherith take on her house, and then I can kind of pick up whatever.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, Cherith, why don't you tell us a little bit about the design team that you were on and what you've done so far, and show us your house.
Hi, as Cindy mentioned, my name is Cherith. I am actually a transfer student to Missouri S&T, and the reason why I chose to transfer to Missouri S&T over other universities is because of the solar house design team. So I knew immediately coming in that this is something that I wanted to dedicate time to. And the really cool aspect about the team is that we get to be involved with researchers on campus. We learn a lot more in depth about the design process. Another great aspect about the team is that you're learning things like statics and structural analysis and other things that come in play in your courses later on. So you get to learn these things a little bit ahead of time, which makes your classes easier later on. And so whenever I first joined the team, I was the head of the business team. And then the next year I was president of the team whenever we participated in the design challenge. So currently I am living in the 2015 house. Last year I lived in the 2013 house that Reagan lives in. So we flip-flopped houses. And so I can give you a little tour of the house. Let me flip my screen. Okay, so currently we are in the living room. This house is constructed of 3 shipping containers. So the kitchen over here in the bathroom is 1 shipping container. And then this wall over here, which leads into my bedroom, is a 2nd shipping container. And then the 3rd one over here is my roommate's bedroom and the office. And so this house was designed to sit on the mountainside in Colorado, which is the reason why it has this nice, big, beautiful window. And it was made for a starter family. And so we have our bathroom with an in-unit washer and dryer, very convenient. I'm also currently doing laundry. And then to take a look at my bedroom, it's a good size master bedroom with a nice walk-in closet. So they really maximize the size of the container when designing this house, and even had an extra cutout into the container to make the room bigger. So that way you can accommodate a queen size bed and a nice walk-in closet, which I make good use of. And then we can take a peek at my roommate's bedroom. So this bedroom was designed for a child. So she has a twin size bed in here, although it could fit a full size bed. A cute circular window, which she says is her favorite feature of the house. And then of course her own closet as well. And another really great feature of this house is the office. It makes it great for studying. Hi, Mel. Hello. Melorine is currently the vice president of the design challenge for the Solar House team. And we just competed in the design challenge a couple weeks ago, and the team actually placed third overall in the competition for our flight home that we introduced. Here's my dog Zeus. And then we have a front deck, and we also have a back deck on the home.
That is super exciting. I know there's a few things about that house that I'm aware of. I've been through several tours on that. And one of the things I find most interesting is your carpet.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about your carpet and your countertop. I think those are two very unique things.
Yeah, I can talk about those. So the carpet that she's mentioning, I can show y'all. It is made of recycled fishing nets. So part of the purpose of the competition is to reduce the amount of usage that we have, whether it's water content into making the home or material, so using more recycled materials. Another feature of the house over here, you can see in the window, we have denim insulation. So recycled blue jeans were used for the insulation in the home, which is now a commercial product that you can use to insulate houses. And then our countertops are concrete countertops that are made with broken glass. And so the team actually made these countertops and also made other features like the table here that you see.
That's super cool. Okay, so why don't we let Thomas talk a little bit about some of the research that's being done, and then I have some questions that people have already shared with me. While Thomas is talking, if any of you prospective students who are on the event tonight, if you have some additional questions, please feel free to start putting them in the chat, and we will answer all your questions as we go along. Okay, Thomas.
Hey, hi, I'm Thomas. I'm a senior researcher for CRE here on the campus that kind of oversees the solar houses and the research and everything that goes into them on campus. I'm also an instructor in civil and architectural engineering, and have been fortunate enough to have both Reagan and Holden in some of my classes. So kind of fun, kind of full circle here. Some of the research we do here, I'm in the same house as Reagan in the 2013 house. It's to improve how we build to make it more energy efficient. So one of the keys to all, I'm trying to get somewhere where it's not so glary. There's a lot of light in this house, which isn't a bad thing, just bad when you're trying to do a Zoom meeting. So one of the great things about this is we actually get to try things out in building these houses with the students helping us design them, and then introduce that to the actual, like how we construct homes for the future, which is kind of fun because you get to do the things that aren't ordinary, that aren't typically done. So this house, particular 2013 house, it actually has concrete floors, and they have this weird orange grid on them, like everywhere. You can actually see an orange grid. So some of the research we actually do in this is all this daylight that's making the camera not really work too great. It can actually introduce heat into the building when you don't want it to be hot. So we actually do research on, you know, how much daylighting and the thermal gains and stuff. So it actually directly ties in. You could do research on these houses, directly influencing how people live in them. And the heat actually can increase the amount of energy the home requires through like the heating and the air conditioning and such. These houses are super highly efficient. And this one in particular is kind of cool because we actually heat the house during the winter with the sun. You would ordinarily think that, hey, okay, we can get hot in the sun, but we have a little sunroom here. It's kind of hard to see, there's a little bit of glare. There's actually a concrete floor here. And what that does, the concrete floor here is actually made from a very specific kind of concrete we made that has a high silica content in it and calcium type. So it actually has more of a thermal mass. It'll get hot and hold longer. We actually have this house positioned accordingly where it's at here on the site to where it gets sun in the wintertime, and it actually heats up the concrete, and we have water tubes that run through that and the rest of the house. And we actually heat the home at night with the heat stored from the sun during the day. And a lot of, it's cool when the students get to actually help design this. And one of the questions I noticed was that students, somebody asked how much the students are involved in the design. Literally, you guys have free reign when you're on the team. Like, we're not gonna let you build like, you know, some kind of giant, you know, 28-story tall pillar, but you pretty much have free reign because we understand that people that are in industry or the advisors on the team, you can have the students can come up with just some fantastic ideas that we never would have thought of. So you guys kind of get free reign to just do whatever you want to for the most part. So that's kind of cool. I'm going outside now because a little bit more on the solar type stuff. I'm actually here underneath a shady area that is actually solar panels. So we're actually shading the home in the summertime with solar panels. So we don't want sun on that to heat up the house. So we actually shade it with solar panels that actually act as a sunshade. And then you can also see that thing. That right there is a state-of-the-art microgrid. It's small scale. Chair's house has one too, and we put those in about a year and a half, 2 years ago. We designed them. Those actually store the energy during the day. Right now, this house, it's sunny outside. This house is making way more power from its solar panels than Reagan can use. Reagan could turn on all the TVs, use the washer and dryer, crank everything, and it's still making more power than she can use right now. So this actually it's connected to the cloud. It actually looks at weather for a week in advance, and it has a bunch of batteries in it, and it stores and discharges energy to the grid or to the homes as it sees fit, and actually looks to see what it's going to need in the future. And so we can actually use that to take all the power we make on this house, provide everything we need for this home, and then in the future we can show how you can charge electric cars. Or in the situation of a community like this, we have 2 homes that have microgrids and a big solar array on them, but we could actually power 2 or 3 additional homes just like this and is energy efficient with only the solar array and microgrid from this home. It produces that much power. So then we start investigating and doing the research on how this can be turned into communities that can be fully self-sufficient and never use any petroleum or any kind of bad resources that hurt the environment.
Okay, so we have a couple.
Go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple questions that kind of relate to that. One of them is they're asking, what are your thoughts on the long-term viability of solar power, and what do you think the large-scale limitations of that would be?
Viability of solar power it's going to happen. It'll actually probably happen much quicker than most people anticipate. And a lot of that will be driven by the upcoming investments in infrastructure from larger governments. And also it's y'all, people who are a little bit older, like electric vehicles and such. They are coming, it'll probably be within 10 years. I believe the market research I've seen is well over 60% of new vehicles sold in 10 years will be electric vehicles. The amount of energy that requires and where you need it in specific places will require us to be doing what we refer to as distributed energy, where we start disengaging communities and buildings and such from the existing grid. That amount of energy can't be used on the existing grid. It's a little bit too old, it's too decrepit, and it's honestly too difficult to do it. To be shipping energy from one big power plant out, across a state to where you need it, which what we're doing here is exactly what the future will show, is that we make the energy where we need it. So solar power is going to be the main driver of energy moving forward in the United States and around the world until they figure out fusion. So yeah, solar's here to stay. And electric vehicles and such, those will be the main driver of that, because you're not going to want to go sit at, if you have an hour-long charging station, you're not going to go sit at, like, what would you consider a gas station for an hour. The batteries and the charge rate, we're also doing research on that. We have medium duty voltage labs being built here that ties in with our new innovation center we're building. And we're really showcasing how that is going to work in the future and how we integrate all that into the built environment that's existing and what we're building in the future. So all of the engineers that are now in school and going to be working in the next 10 to 15 years are going to see a sea change event in their careers, that all of this stuff will have to be accommodated and thought of in every type of building. So there'll be independent energy production. It'll be much more localized because we don't lose, from transmission for long distances, and then we can store it and utilize it where we need it.
Okay, as I'm asking you this last question, you can kind of go back in because some of the next questions are for the students, but do you feel like a typical suburban household can live primarily on solar, or do you think it's limited to more smaller houses?
No, I live in one. I don't have it's not huge, but we build them all the time. what it comes down to is with that is the actual efficiency. What the solar house team does is they're building a highly energy efficient home that just happens to be run by solar. When you make the buildings and the homes and stuff use such a small amount of energy compared to what we're used to, they can be powered by just about anything. So this house produces enough energy to an average American home that was code compliant, that wasn't really super energy efficient. It would probably pretty much power it for the most part. But if you make one as efficient as this solar array can power 4 of them. So that's what makes it capable, is the much more higher levels of energy efficiency. Makes solar very practical for quite a few people. They are actually talking about introducing that into new national codes and such, and incentivizing it. And it's just getting more prevalent. I think it's actually required by law in New York and California on a new residential construction to install solar on it.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So let's ask the students a couple more questions as well. And so first of all, will the team be participating in the next solar decathlon, and when does that take place?
We will be participating in the next solar decathlon. My roommate actually just had a meeting with the team today discussing what the plans are for the next year. For the past couple of years, we've been participating in the design challenge. So we've been experimenting with designing. We designed a potential dorm for the campus 2 years ago. This last year, we designed a residential house and worked with a nonprofit that is located in St. Roberts, which is right near Rolla, for veterans that have PTSD and disabilities, designing homes for them. So in the future, looking at continuing to participate in the design challenge and maybe having multiple teams that are participating in the design challenge to allow more people that competition experience. But we also are looking in the future participating in the build challenge again and finding that external source of funding so that way we can continue to build houses, which is something that we're all very excited to do.
Great. So there are a few questions kind of in relation to that, but so tell us a little bit, do you guys specifically design the house and build it? They're asking questions about like how much you actually get to participate as students.
So that honestly kind of depends on the type of house that we're designing. So the house that we were wanting to build in 2020, that house was made out of shipping containers, kind of like this one, and requires a lot of welding. And so for that kind of project, a lot of the building would be done by professionals that we build relationships with. But then there are also other things that the team would be able to do, like putting up the drywall and installing cabinetry and things like that. And so it depends if you want to have a house that the team has more build presence on, then the team can design a house like that. Or if you want a house that the team is more designing and not as much building, then there's room for the team to design that type of house as well.
Okay. Thomas, you might know this. How much does it cost to build and upkeep an average size solar house?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. It depends. Ones we have done in the past that were more designed to travel. Both the houses we've shown today were actually assembled here in Rolla and then disassembled and shipped across the country to California, put back together, compete for 8 to 9 days, and then take them back apart and bring them back here. So to make a structure that is resilient enough to take the travel and also light enough, that can really bring up the cost probably about 3 times what it would cost to build a standard home for the same size. To speak to that on future ones, to reduce cost and kind of make it so we get a little bit better market, like people can understand themselves in it. We actually have a couple proposals and we have some interested partners to where when the team does something like they did this last one and did very well, got 3rd place in the competition for a smaller residential detached home. We actually have partners that are interested in running co-ops or internships for interested team members to where the team members can come and actually construct the home that they just helped design. So separate from the actual process, but then you could add on and actually have that on your resume and use it as experiential learning. So you get
That's
the chance
awesome.
to do all of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Kind
Okay,
of
so
best of both worlds. Can you get to design and build it if you want to? Yeah.
no kidding. That's great. Okay, so a couple other questions. How many students are currently on the solar house design team?
I think there's probably about 30 or 40 members on the team. That's usually about where our numbers run.
Okay. And so we haven't heard from Reagan lately. Reagan, why did you choose the solar house design team over some other design team?
So a very similar reason to why I chose civil engineering, I guess, is that I've always liked architecture and structural things. And so this was one of the design teams where I got to do the closest to what I hopefully will be doing in my job. They have, so the house, the 2017 house was actually like pretty much designed by the time I got into college, but they did actually, for that house specifically, they had like a couple people had internships basically designing the structural part of the house, where they worked with like professional engineers to do the structural aspect of it, which is more what I was interested in when I joined Solar House. And so that is the sub team that I was originally on when I came in freshman year.
Okay, cool. So anybody can answer this. What is the average square footage of a solar house, and does the decathlon create limitations to that size?
So the earlier houses are a smaller footprint. They're around 600 square feet. The houses that Reagan and I live in are a little under 1,000 square feet. And the solar decathlon does place limitations on that. They have in the recent years increased the maximum square footage, especially now. Just 2 years ago, they allowed the build teams to build houses in one location and compete in the one location instead of traveling the homes. And so now we can build houses that are up to 3,000 square feet.
Nice. Okay. So let's see, I have a couple more here. Let's talk about living in the houses right now. Reagan and Cherith are each living in a house. Can anyone live in the solar house, or just students who have been on the solar house design team?
So you do like on the solar house design team, that's kind of where they'll first say like, these are the houses that are open and everything. But if they don't have people on the solar house team wanting it, or if no one expresses interest soon enough, it does go out to any student can live in the houses. My roommate last year was not on the solar house design team. It was just a roommate that I wanted to have. And so.
So do you guys pay rent, and how much does it cost? And do all the houses cost the same amount?
We do pay rent. This year, all of the houses cost the same to live in, so it's $600 a house. And so in my case, my roommate and I split that cost. I know in the past, Nest has cost $750 a month to live in total. So I don't know what housing would potentially charge in future years. But the 2002, 2005, 2007, 2009 are $600.
Okay.
And the 2013.
And when you divide that into, that's $300 per person for rent.
And that includes Wi-Fi, utilities, and your rent.
Okay.
So
That's
it's some
awesome.
of this housing in Rolla.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, you might be able to find a house for that price, but you wouldn't get your utilities and everything included with that. So that's great. So are there any problems with living in a solar house? Like, do you ever get cold water, or not enough heat, or not enough AC?
So there's actually, they mentioned before that we have all the batteries and everything. There is more power that I could possibly use coming to this house. And so they actually had, so one of the things with the house is they'll do research on them every now and then and just ask you to do certain things. which are never too difficult. So in the winter, they actually wanted us to have our heat up to like 80 for a few weeks. So this is when it was like, 0 degrees outside, and I had my house heated to 80 degrees, and it was totally like it kept it at 80. So there is a lot of power. So there's no problem with, I've never had a problem with hot water or with AC or anything.
Okay.
Wasps, I guess, have probably been my main problem in either of the houses, which is just a general thing. But
The funny part about the power is that we have to do some research on the microgrids outside, and we will actually island the homes and disconnect them from the grid, and the students don't know, and they'll live off grid for like a good week and a half, and they work just fine. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
If we were to let them know, they might change their behavior, so we can't do that. So it's kind of neat when you're doing that. And it's just fun to live in a research. I mean, you're living inside an engineering project. That's kind of neat sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, this question just popped up. How far from campus are the solar houses? Well, they're basically on campus.
Yeah, if walking to BCH, which is the building that the civil and architectural engineering classes are in most of the time, it's about a 15-minute walk, 20 minutes if you catch the red light at a bad time, but it's not far. It's only like 5 minutes from the gym.
Right.
So.
At the most.
Yeah, at the most.
Yeah, and BCH is one of the farthest buildings from here, so.
It is, yeah. But, just to answer that question, campus is walkable. Most of our students do walk from class to class and across campus and that type of thing. So has there been any unexpected advantages to living in the solar house? Or what's your favorite feature about your house?
I would say an advantage is being on campus Wi-Fi. So we're on campus Wi-Fi, but it's also research Wi-Fi. So it has a gigabyte download speed. So it's the fastest Wi-Fi that you can get. But being able to connect my desktop to the desktops on campus is a lot easier being on campus Wi-Fi and accessing those resources. So that's an advantage that I didn't expect whenever I first moved into the house, but it's something that I really like. And then probably the best feature I would say is the office, having that dedicated area to study inside my own house. What about you, Reagan?
It's a good question. The houses are honestly like a lot bigger, which I did get to tour them a lot before I lived in them. But one thing before I had toured them, they're a lot bigger than I expected. Even like, because I've mentioned, I lived in Chair's house with a roommate last year. And so, I mean, even with a roommate, there's plenty of room in the houses. They're really not crowded. I've heard a lot of people like, when I say I live in a solar house, they're like, oh, aren't those like really tiny? It's like, no, I have plenty of room. It's probably a lot larger than some apartments.
Yeah, and I think if you're looking at like a dorm, obviously you guys have way more space than a dorm room. So
yeah.
And how many people, when you tell them you live in a solar house, don't want to come over and hang out in the solar house?
Yeah. That's true. It also makes me friends. So
that might be a disadvantage too. I don't know, but I would consider that an advantage. Yeah.
I give tours of my house to my friends all of the time.
Same here, yeah.
For that, No. Okay. So do people need any experience before joining the team, or are there any requirements in order to join the team?
I mean, not really. No.
No, you need no experience and there are no requirements. We actually enjoy taking students, you don't have to be like, even though both of these are civil architectural, Reagan and Cherith both are, any major, come on. We actually have the mechanicals, the electrical, the business parts of the team. And we encourage anybody and everybody to come join because we like the diversity of ideas and it just makes a better team when we have all kinds of, we'll have business majors, we have chemists, everything. So it's kind of fun.
Our director of architecture for a while was a metallurgical engineer. And she was, sorry, I got another Zoom call that came in. Um, she was a metallurgical engineer, and she was one of the best directors of architecture that we had, and amazing at sketching. And so that's just one of those cool things that you don't have to be a civil or an architectural engineer to be part of the team or to play a big part in the team.
Sure.
One of our earlier homes, the lead of the architecture, the house won an award in architecture, and it was designed by a physics student, just following the golden ratio and Fibonacci sequence and stuff. So
Well,
yeah,
that's really cool.
all kinds.
Okay. So how many houses are there? And they were all done about 2 years apart, correct? Right now we have 6 on campus, or 7?
We have 6 on campus.
6 on campus. And then one of them got sold at
Yep,
the
and
Denver.
Yeah, and it's actually out in Denver, and it is part of a mixed use kind of below average income area that was part of a program through the city of Denver and in conjunction with Habitat for Humanity in the area. And
Yeah.
so they actually get to showcase how this energy efficient things can benefit people who are of fixed and lower income, because it has a pretty well guaranteed utility cost of almost nothing. So you people can put more money towards the home to purchase and not worry about operational costs. So it's actually, this style of living is much more beneficial for that type of customer.
Yeah, I actually went to that decathlon. I loved that house. It was very HGTV.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Yeah, it was. Okay, I'm just checking to see what I haven't answered yet. Are there certain states where solar energy is more feasible, or can these houses be sustainable anywhere?
Right now, yeah, there are states that are more economically viable. They have a process called net metering, in which the utilities are required to pay you a certain amount. So like, for instance, this house I'm at right now, when it makes too much power and we fill up our batteries, we actually discharge to the grid to provide them extra power. So if you have a house, say in California, that doesn't have batteries, during the day, if they're not using the power, they're putting it into the grid. When we purchase power from the grid, we pay around 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And when we give it back to them, they pay us 2 cents here in Missouri. So financially doesn't make a lot of sense. Where the houses, the last homes we've done in Colorado, they pay the same amount. So it makes a lot of financial sense in quite a few states around the United States. So they are adjusting to kind of do federal minimums for that and make it more, instead of a hodgepodge of every state, to make it more consistent. That will help solar adoption. And as always, whenever regular power price is increasing and we keep continuing to have the cost of solar decreasing, eventually here in the next 5 to 10 years, we will reach a parity point to where it will be cheaper for a person who owns a home to install solar and produce their own power than it is to buy from the grid. And that, accompanying with, electric vehicles and other such things, that will make solar pretty prevalent really fast.
Okay. Let's see. You kind of explained that last one. Let's go back. There was a question that I think I missed earlier. So when did you guys become interested in sustainable energy and the environment? Did you learn that as a young child, from a classroom, from the news, some person in your life? You can each answer that question.
For me, it really started in high school. So I did speech and debate in high school, and so we learned a lot about current events. And then as I got into college, I was continuing to learn more and more about what was going on with the environment and learning about what's going on with climate change and the impact that not only individual actions, but also I became interested in learning ways that I could contribute in my future career into benefiting the environment in ways that I never would have thought of, and encouraging sustainability. So I'm a senior that's graduating, and I'm going to work for a construction company called Alberisi & Close, and they encourage sustainable construction, and that's one of their primary focuses. And so it's really cool to be able to transition from this love of sustainability that I gained in high school to now having a career where it's going to contribute towards that in the future.
That's awesome. I like to hear that full circle. What about you, Reagan?
I would say like probably a lot of it started with the solar house team. So I was interested in the solar house team more for the architecture and everything, but like some of the first tasks that I did for the team was researching like sustainable living things, renewable energy and everything like that. And so just the more I've looked into it throughout that, and then through a couple classes in like environmental engineering, is really, yeah, really what got me more interested. And then living in the houses themselves, they do encourage you to do more things that are like sustainable. So it's like one of the things like in my lease is like I have to participate in the recycling program, which I would do anyway. But it's like, yeah, so it's very encouraged here. And then it is just, I don't, it's really cool to look into because there are a lot of things coming out, a lot of different ways that you can do sustainable living things, and then a lot of like new things are implemented into the houses we build, like Cherith was showing with the denim insulation and everything like that.
Yeah.
And that's also something we're seeing a lot more of, especially with this generation, is that they can place somewhat of a premium on environmental aspects. Whereas, you know, if they were given the choice between one or the other, they're going to pick the one that's better for the environment. So that's where this type of research and stuff, and I mean, these are literally living laboratories the students live in, that we get to try out the new things to see how people interact with the different technologies and the efficiency programs we're putting in. And then we can make them better and integrate it into the built environment to make it a better product for end users. So, I mean, with the stuff we do, we actually get betas, you know, and pre-production units for home automation systems, and we help them work the bugs out, you know, with the students' help and figure this stuff out before it ever gets to market to make stuff better.
So do you work with certain corporate sponsors? Are they asking for that information? What causes your research? I know you're head deep in research, so.
Mine, yeah, is more of, I work through the Department of Energy. I'm a fellow there. And ours is mainly, the one I do with is the energy efficiency and how to find out how to make homes and the different energy efficient attributes we bring in to where it's more accepted by people, and how to get it in the mainstream. Because still currently, you know, a super highly energy efficient home is seen as a fluke. It's something on the outside edge. It's not in market demand. But finding ways to get that more in the mainstream to where people expect it, because the home is one of the biggest purchases you're going to make, and no one ever really is concerned about its energy efficiency. Yet when you go buy a car, everybody asks what kind of mileage it gets. So we're trying to make that happen with homes too. And
Okay,
that's what my research pretty much goes towards.
absolutely. That's a good way to point it out. I do have a question asking, how do they join?
You can
Show up to a
join
meeting.
on design.mst.edu. That is the way that you sign up through the SDLC's website. We also, on the SDLC's website is a link to our Solar House website, and it'll have listed the president of the team, and you can email them. You can also email sunhome@mst.edu, and there will be someone there that can answer your questions. We are going to have meetings in the fall. So that way we'll have like an introductory meeting, and you can learn more about the team, figure out which sub teams that you would be interested in. We encourage people to go to as many meetings as you want to, figure out the place that you're going to fit in. And so there's a lot of opportunities to get to know people and to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's a great place to start when you get on campus to find new friends, because you're going to find people who have similar, you know, values and things that you guys, you know, you're doing. Okay, so if anybody else has questions for either Thomas or Reagan or Cherith, please type them in the chat. I think we're getting real close to the end of the questions that I have seen come across. I'm just going to scan through these just a second. And
No, there is no type of fee to join the Solar House.
oh, thank you for looking at that.
Yeah. Free for all.
We do have
comers.
dues.
Yeah. And yeah, not for enrollment. There are dues.
Yeah.
What do you do with the dues?
So the dues go towards socials for the team, go towards our fee to enter into the competition, also for designing merchandise. So typically that won't be included in the dues, but we do have people that will design merch and have you be able to buy t-shirts and things like that. And so all of that goes towards future funding for things like trips to Colorado for like the design challenge and things like that.
Okay, good. So we have some students who are watching today who are admitted freshmen, and one of them wants to know, should he wait until the fall semester starts to sign up, or should he go ahead and sign up now before he gets on campus?
If he wants to get involved over the summer, I don't think there's an official way to sign up, but I'll put my email into the chat and you can email me. I plan to still stay involved in the team after I graduate, and I can also pass questions along to my roommate or the president of the team and other relevant people. So that way you can get involved as soon as possible if you'd like.
Okay. And we also have someone asking about summer camps. You guys don't do, I think at summer, I'm going to ask Sarah, who's with me, type in the website, but I think it's summer.mst.edu will give you all the summer camps. But do you guys have any activities that you guys do over the summer? Typically, I know with COVID things have changed, but.
Yeah, I know our team, we don't do a summer camp per se. We do have members of the team that meet, sorry, the glare in the house with the sun setting is. But we do have the team, a lot of the leads will meet over the summer and work on the business proposal for the fall and getting ideas for the next design challenge and for the build challenge and really starting to get things rolling. So that way our signups due in October, early November. And so we like to have a nice foundation for everything to start with.
So one of the questions earlier that I did kind of skip over, I got part of it. They asked if the solar houses were completely designed by students, and if they are, how do you choose which design to build? Like, does everybody submit their ideas, and how does that come about?
So at the beginning of the semester, we have design meetings. And so that's we call them general body meetings. And at the beginning of the semester, they really, and especially in the fall, it starts with introducing the design process, what that looks like, brainstorming what innovation would look like in homes. And so we really try to come to a consensus on what type of design we would like to do. So for the 2019 design that we did, it was wanting to design a home that was modular. And so that you could start with like a studio unit, and then you could, as the family expands, you could buy an addition to where it has extra bedrooms, extra bathrooms. And so that was the foundation for that design. For the next year, we were like some of the dormitories on campus, they're great, but they're a little bit older, and we were wanting to build a dormitory that we know students will be excited about, especially being students. And so that fueled the idea for the design for the 2020 house. And then for 2021, there are quite a few students on the team who have an interest in ADA compliance and creating accommodations for people with disabilities. And so that fueled the idea for the design for the 2021 house.
Oh, all right. That all sounds great. Now, Thomas, I have one more kind of quick question. It's probably not quick for you, but how does that solar grid actually work?
The microgrid we have here?
Yeah.
So we have the PV panels on the roof here, and then they travel over. Inside that has two inverters that convert the power. They can work in one of two ways. An inverter can either let it pass through, and the solar power, this actually produces in direct current, DC, and then it will go into that, and then the batteries inside of it are also DC, and that's where it stores. And then whenever we need it, It goes into the inverter, turns it into AC, and then connects into the house through the power panel, and we use the power. In the case of we need something else like to dump it to the grid, we will convert it to AC and put it back onto the grid. But if we were to say need to charge a solar or an electric car right there, we can actually make it in DC, put it in the battery in DC, and then your electric car, your Tesla, is also DC. So we never have to lose power by inverting it. Every time you switch from AC to DC, you can lose about 10 to 12%. So it's really handy. And that's one of the things that goes back to the distributed energy thing, that if we can make the power and store the power and use the power all in the same place, it makes it a lot easier. We don't have to, drop a lot of stuff for no reason.
Okay, that all sounds good. Okay, well, we are running out of time. So if anybody has any other questions last minute, go ahead and type them in the chat. Do you guys have anything else that you want to say that maybe I've forgotten to talk about, or anything else that you want to share, Reagan, Sheriff, or Thomas?
I would give a quick note. If you are somewhat interested in this type of technology and this type of work, and it's kind of like, ooh, hey, I think that maybe come give it a shot, because this is going to be huge demand in the industry. Like probably the number one in construction industry is this type of technology and how to integrate it. And honestly, it can be pretty rewarding when you're doing good work, getting paid well, and actually helping save the earth. It kind of puts a lot together. So if it's something you kind of like, definitely give it a shot.
Sounds good. Okay. Sheriff, Reagan, you have anything you want to add?
I will say one other benefit to joining not just the solar house design team, but any design team, is being able to build connections with students that are older than you, that have been around campus for a while. Or like for me as a transfer student, getting to know other people at the university. You get recommendations for professors, for electives, for classes that you need to take. So there's a lot more than just the educational side and getting to know more about, like, say, sustainability or a topic that you're interested in. Definitely the connections that you make while you're on the team with the advisors, with me getting to know Tom, and now we're investigating working together professionally as well. And so there's a lot of benefit to joining design teams.
Yes, I agree.
The design team thing for all of them kind of goes that way, because a lot of times when the career fairs and such occur, the people they send to the career fairs as recruiters are alums from here, and a lot of them have been on a design team, so that can speak volumes. And you may already know some of the people, but it's great for that icebreaker moment and to set you out there from all the rest. So
right, yeah. We have one question here. This person is a freshman in high school now and is wondering how he or she should prepare for a field like this, even though they want to go into electrical engineering.
Electrical engineering, that's going to be a huge demand for that as well, because you're the ones that are going to be responsible for designing all this so it can actually work. Stick with the math and physics and make sure that's good. And maybe they have some junior levels for, like IEEE, the International Association for Electrical Engineers. They have junior versions of those for student. Might not be a bad thing to join that, or whatever your respective field you're interested in. And then maybe see where there's a local meeting or something for a local college or something, and maybe join that or ask if you can attend. Some of the things here right now with COVID and such, a lot of these are online, and there may be some that you can do that are free to attend and just see if it's interesting to you.
Yeah.
I've never seen an age limit on, a professional, free certification, or, one of the little community things where they're just having meetings. So
Sure. I know that Project Lead the Way, not all high schools have that, but they also have some really good classes in a variety of different things, engineering and biomedical and, just computer science, things like that. So there's a lot of really good options there too. Okay.
Getting to know the program Revit as well, I would say that's a program that is becoming huge in the architectural field, and it's something that you do the electrical design for buildings as well in. And so getting experience in that program before you enter college can be beneficial.
Will you type that in? I know how to spell it, but I'd rather.
Revit, and then at some electrical firms, just some form of building information modeling to where everything's contained. It isn't just standard drafting and drawing cut sheets and riser diagrams for electrical. Yeah.
I was going to ask about what type of like computer program software that you guys got to use from being on the solar house design team that maybe other people don't get to use. And so this is a benefit when you go to talk to different employers. They're like, oh, you've got that. So
Yeah, I will say in architecture design, you get to know a little bit about Revit, but being on the solar house design team, my roommate, for example, she knows leaps and bounds more about Revit than most students at the university would know. And so that can be a huge benefit whenever you're talking to people for internships and for future employers, because they really want you to have that experience with those skills that you'll need in the field.
yep, I agree. Okay, well, we're getting on toward the end of our time, so I'm going to let everybody go. But we're going to be putting this on our YouTube channel. It is Missouri S&T admissions, and then you'll see this out there probably tomorrow or the next day. And so if you want to revisit it, listen to anything again, understand anything, please feel free to do that. If you need to contact me, I'm going to put my contact information here in the chat, but my name is Cindy Welch, and my email is welchcy@mst.edu. So I can get you in touch with just about anybody that you need to talk to. If you have questions for Thomas or Reagan or Cherith, I'll be glad to pass them on their way as well. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight for this episode, and we're so excited that you joined us. And thank you so much to Thomas and Reagan and Cherith, and tell Stefan thanks for being a great model as well. We enjoyed that, and we will talk to all of you again soon. Everybody have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.